Imagine being so wealthy, so obsessed with gold, that your enemies, after killing you, decide to carry out the most poetic and brutal execution in history. They pour molten precious metal down your throat, saying, "You thirsted for gold. Now drink your fill."
This legend marks the end of the life of Gaius Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in the history of Rome. His fortune in today's terms would be estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars. But how did he do it? How, in an era of civil wars and chaos, did one man manage to take control of an entire republic's economy?
He wasn't a great general like Caesar. He wasn't a beloved hero like Pompey. Crassus was a different kind of predator. And today I will reveal his three main and very dirty secrets that made him the first oligarch in history. Watch until the end, and you will understand why his methods are still used by the most cynical business people of our time. To understand the genius of Crassus, you must understand the time in which he lived. The end of the 2nd and the beginning of the 1st century BCE. The Roman Republic was cracking at the seams. A brutal civil war was raging between the generals Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla. Crassus's family made the wrong bet on Marius. When Sulla emerged victorious and entered Rome, he initiated what history would call the proscriptions. What are proscriptions? They were an official list of enemies of the state. Anyone on the list could be killed without consequence, and their property, houses, lands, slaves, was confiscated and sold at auction for next to nothing. And this is where our hero enters the stage. This is the first dirty secret of Crassus. He built his initial capital on blood and betrayal. While others were afraid or felt disgust, Crassus, enjoying Sulla's protection, began buying up the property of the executed. He acted quickly and ruthlessly. He bought luxurious villas, fertile lands, and silver mines for 1 to 2% of their actual value. He was even known to add people to the lists simply because he coveted their property. The city was drenched in blood, and Crassus's wallet filled with gold. In just a couple of years, he went from being merely a noble but not exceptionally wealthy Roman to a multi-millionaire. So Crassus had learned to profit from the deaths of others. But dozens of others were doing the same. That wasn't enough to become the richest. The true genius of Crassus, his most diabolical business idea, was born not in the Senate, but in the flames that constantly devoured Rome. And here is his second secret: profiting from disaster. What he came up with is shocking in its cynicism even today. Rome was a giant anthill. Most people lived in multi-story, poorly constructed tenements called insulae. Fires were a common occurrence and often turned into major disasters. A state fire department simply didn't exist. And so Crassus created Rome's first private fire brigade. Sounds noble, doesn't it? But here's how it worked. When a fire broke out somewhere, Crassus's team of 500 trained slave firefighters and architects would immediately arrive at the scene. But they didn't start extinguishing the fire. Instead, an agent of Crassus would approach the distraught owner and offer to buy his burning property and the neighboring buildings that were also threatened by the fire. The price was absurd, predatory. If the owner agreed, the brigade would immediately start fighting the fire. If he refused, they would simply turn around and leave, watching as his home burned to the ground. It was a brilliant and monstrous scheme. He bought entire city blocks for pennies, and after the fire, on the cleared land, he would build new, more profitable buildings and rent them out. He became the largest landlord in Rome. It was said that at one point, most of the city belonged to him. He monetized human misery. By the 60s BCE, Crassus was obscenely rich. But in Rome, money without glory and influence was nothing.
And this is the third secret of Crassus. He understood how to convert money into political power. He began to buy politicians on a massive scale. He gave interest-free loans to senators, knowing they would never be able to repay them. This way, he turned them into his puppets. He paid off the debts of the young and ambitious Julius Caesar, making him indebted to him. Eventually, he formed the first triumvirate, an unofficial alliance of the three most powerful men in Rome: Pompey for his military glory, Caesar for his popularity with the people, and Crassus himself for his money. The three of them effectively ruled the entire republic.
But Crassus was haunted by the fame of his colleagues.
He also wanted to be a great general. His chance came during the famous revolt of Spartacus. While other generals suffered defeats, Crassus equipped an army with his own money, brutally suppressed the rebellion, and made a terrifying example by crucifying 6,000 captured slaves along the road to Rome. But even this didn't bring him the glory he desired. In the end, Pompey took all the credit.
This thirst for glory became an obsession.
At 55 years old, an old man by Roman standards, Crassus initiated a war with the powerful Parthian Empire, a war Rome did not need. He dreamed of repeating the campaigns of Alexander the Great and returning with triumph and immense spoils.
But this campaign was a catastrophe.
Crassus proved to be a terrible general. At the Battle of Carrhae, his army was surrounded and completely annihilated. His son was killed before his very eyes. Crassus himself was lured into false negotiations and treacherously captured. The Parthian king, knowing of Crassus's greatest passion, decided to posthumously quench his thirst. Thus ended the life of the man who managed to buy Rome, but could never buy himself military glory. His head was sent to the Parthian king, where, according to legend, it was used as a prop in a theatrical play. A humiliating end for the richest man in Rome.
So who was Marcus Crassus?
A financial genius who was the first to realize that the greatest fortunes could be made from chaos, or a ruthless monster who built an empire on human suffering? Probably both. He left behind not temples or laws, but a code of conduct, a model in which everything has a price, and the tragedy of some is a business opportunity for others. He proved that vast sums of money can break any republic and turn politics into a marketplace.
After all, his methods, buying up assets during a crisis, monetizing emergencies, funding politicians, they haven't really gone out of style, have they? What do you think? Do modern Crassuses exist in our world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. It will be very interesting to read. And if you enjoyed this story from the dark side of ancient Rome, subscribe to the channel and give it a like, so you don't miss new stories of intrigue, money, and power.